Last year, more than 67,000 cases of rape were recorded by the police, and less than 2% resulted in a charge.
Well, it comes amid a record-high backlog of adult rape cases in England and Wales courts. Policing Minister Chris Philp joins us now. Good morning to you. I mean, it's just heartbreaking to hear Lauren's story. It's taken years for her to get justice. She's said that it's absolutely broken her. And when we look at the statistics, the vast majority of rape victims don't even get that far. This system is failing them, and you are failing them, aren't you?
Well, good morning. First of all, just to add what you said to Lauren, that she's shown huge bravery in bringing the case forward. I know it's been a very difficult process, I think, with multiple trials, and she was incredibly brave by coming on the programme this morning. So I just want to add that. And she's obviously had a horrific experience that no one should have to go through, particularly at the hands of someone serving in the police, which is why we're tightening up all of the rules today to make sure officers who shouldn't serve are quickly removed. Look, on your question about rape prosecutions, there is a lot more that needs to be done. There's a whole programme of work called Operation Soteria, which is being led by the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, the Safeguarding Minister, Sarah Dines, and the National Police Chiefs Council to increase the number of rape prosecutions. It's been rolled out nationally as of June of this year, as of a couple of months ago. But in the forces where it was first adopted, around about a year or year and a half ago, they've seen very, very dramatic increases in the proportion of rape cases that have been prosecuted. So we're expecting that as this is now rolled out nationwide, to see those figures go up. They have gone up quite a lot across the country already in the last 2 or 3 years, but they are still too low, as you said a second ago. You're right to point that out.
Minister, they are too low, but it's not just that. You listened and heard what Lauren had to say. This is just the average. I just need to know, do you spend much time speaking to those who are involved in the criminal justice system? Solicitors, barristers, judges, anybody that works in courts. There is a massive backlog. It takes over 2 years more from just a complaint. Hardly any, just about 2% will get to charge. And then you can almost forget about it. 70% drop out before the time the trial comes. You know, every single person involved in the criminal justice system looks to government and says the system needs to be better funded, more judges, there needs to be more courts, and all of the things that, you know, frankly, have one answer, which is a commitment to spend more on the criminal justice system. Are you proud of the current state of the criminal justice system and how long it takes to bring a person accused of rape to court?
Well, let's take each part of the criminal justice system in turn. There's first of all the police part, and then there's secondly the court part. And the police part is the bit that I'm responsible for. So we've now got record numbers of police officers, more than we've ever had before. We're doing some work to basically set targets around the number of specialist officers trained in investigating rape and serious sexual assault to make sure that now we've got record numbers of officers, we have the right numbers dedicated to investigating these awful crimes. And I've mentioned that we've rolled out already Operation Soteria, which is essentially a new way, a better way of investigating rape and serious sexual assault that has led to dramatically increased charging rates in the areas that first adopted it. So those numbers are all moving in the right direction. Now, the second, and that includes speed, of course, as well. And things like commitments like returning the victim's mobile phone within 24 hours, those sort of things help as well. Now, you've also mentioned the court side. So that's, I know that the Lord Chancellor, the Justice Secretary, who runs the court system, is very, very focused on speeding all of this up. I think there's now no limitation on the number of Crown Court sitting days. And I know that when judges take decisions about which cases to list, they try very hard to prioritise cases where there is enormous victim sensitivity, which obviously includes rape. And there is now an ability to record evidence under Section 28, record evidence early on, long before the trial, which then gets used at the trial. But I know that the Lord Chancellor is working hard to speed up the court system. Can I just
interrupt you here, because I think, you know, this is of critical relevance. Lauren Taylor was raped by a serving police officer. More than 1,500 police officers have been accused of violence offences against women and girls over a period of 6 months, and less than 1% have been sacked, according to reports. As you know, Dame Louise Casey said that the police service was institutionally sexist. What better evidence is there than that, and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, well, it's a really good point. So I've had extensive discussions with Dame Louise Casey around the time that her report was published a few months ago. And in fact, that's why we're making today's announcements about police misconduct, to make it faster and easier to sack officers who shouldn't wear the uniform or carry the badge. That includes things like making clear that gross misconduct should automatically result in dismissal, having senior police officers chair the misconduct panel, giving the Chief Constable a right of appeal if they disagree with the panel's decision to retain an officer who the Chief Constable thinks should be fired, introducing a new requirement that a police officer should have to pass vetting, not just at the point they join the police force, but it should be checked periodically throughout the officer's career to make sure they maintain vetting status. So all of those things I just talked about are designed to address the point that you just made and that Louise Casey has referred to. Okay. And to be fair to Mark Rowley, the Met Commissioner, these are changes he's asked for in order to make sure he can clean up the Met.
And just to get an idea on numbers, because he talked about numbers, you know, how many police officers do you think are in a job at the moment then that shouldn't be? Because some estimates put it at least 2,000.
Well, Mark Rowley has talked publicly about 500 officers in the Met, and he obviously has access to that data in the way that I don't. So you're right, he's mentioned that figure. I think what's also critically important is to make sure that all serving officers get checked. So there is also an exercise going on as we speak that'll be concluded a little later on this year, where every single serving police officer is being checked against the police national database to see if there is anything untoward in their background. Now, I'm not talking about just criminal offences, it goes beyond that. But one other point I would add, the vast majority of police officers, of course, are dedicated, hard-working and brave. We saw just 2 days ago Sergeant Graham Saville of Nottinghamshire tragically losing his life, saving a member of the public. So we should keep in mind the vast majority of officers are decent, hard-working and brave. What we're talking about here is sorting out the minority.
Minister, we would echo that. And, you know, Lauren Taylor, I think, also gives profound credit to the police officers that were alongside her during this incredibly traumatic process. And I agree with you. It's a shame we only ever hear about things when they go wrong, but they do go horribly wrong. And you've been told by an independent person, Dame Louise Casey, that the force is institutionally sexist and racist and etc. Why would you want senior police officers making determinations about other police officers? Isn't it time to, again, you know, put more money in the system, have it streamlined by independent people who are best placed to determine whether or not somebody should serve? Minister, it's time to spend money on the police across the board. The public have lost trust, have they not?
Well, a couple of points there. First of all, the misconduct panels, although chaired by a senior police officer, will also have 2 independent members sitting on it, one of whom has to be legally qualified. So I think that independence is there. Mark Rowley, as Met Commissioner, has pointed to a number of cases where he wanted to sack an officer for misconduct, but the old system that we're going to replace didn't deliver that, didn't do it. And you've mentioned that number of 500 officers a couple of minutes ago. So these are changes that Mark Rowley and Lynn Owens, have asked for in the Met to help them deal with some of these issues. On the resourcing point you asked about, the money point, first of all, we've got more police officers now than we've ever had before. We've got 149,566 as of March this year, which is 20,000 more than we had in 2019, and it's 3,500 more than the previous peak. So we do have record numbers. Police funding this year is £17.2 billion. Frontline policing got an extra £500 million this year compared to last year. And the pay rise, the 7% pay rise, government funded all of that above the 2.5% that forces had budgeted. So the financial settlement this year is quite good.
Charlotte in a moment, but it's just fascinating to me, speaking to colleagues as I do every day, not just in the media, but in the law. You actually look across this country to GMB viewers and say the criminal justice system is perfectly well and adequately funded, yes or no?
Well, I said that we've got record police numbers, and we've given the police a lot of extra money this year. Now, in the court system, it does take longer than it should do to get a case into the Crown Court. But the Justice Secretary, I know, who is a barrister, is a former criminal barrister himself, is working night and day to increase court capacity and speed up the system.
Okay. Well, I'll just take that as a no, but I think Charlotte has a question.
We wanted to speak to you about our top story this morning, an exclusive Good Morning Britain poll, which has found that 1 in 6 parents in England with children who receive free school meals during term time say their child is going to bed hungry this summer. And on average, That is 3 times a week. Now, we spoke to the former government advisor, Henry Dimbleby, on this, and he said quite clearly that a government minister needs to take a hold of this situation, needs to be across this data and take action, because the amount of benefits they're getting, the food vouchers, are not keeping pace with inflation. And at the end of the day, it means that children are hungry. We're abandoning vulnerable children who aren't having enough to eat.
OK, well, look, it's clearly a very serious issue. And I know my colleagues at the Department for Education are thinking about this very carefully. The free school meals entitlement is something that a lot of people do use. On the sort of wider question about benefits and cost of living, benefits were increased just a few months ago in April by 10.1%, and that applies to all benefits, universal credit, housing benefit, the whole thing. So that 10.1% increase in benefits in April obviously is designed to help people in the global cost of living crisis. And I think 10.1% is quite a generous increase for those benefits.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the vouchers actually that are given to these parents to be able to buy food during the summer, and those haven't gone up in line with inflation. Some of them haven't gone up at all since last year. So that's the difficulty that some parents are facing. But we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us this morning. That's Chris Philp there.